Hey Dad. Tales from the Borderlands is quite unassuming in premise. It seems like the complete opposite in structure from what Borderlands is. The series that at its core was developed as a way to merge the FPS and RPG genres can't possibly go well with a narrative-focused adventure game, right? That's where your assumptions would be wrong, because Tales from the Borderlands takes the world that the franchise had set up and dives deep into its recesses, taking the well-known and beloved characters, giving them a sense of depth, further characterizing them, and creating a new cast that's just as lovable and interesting. The game honestly had no reason to work as well as it did, but I was hooked from the first to the very last episode. In some ways, I enjoyed the story more than Borderlands 2. The game does have its drawbacks. It's all based on a pretty outdated Telltale engine with some little quirks here and there. It does have some pacing issues at times. This doesn't detract from the overall goal, though, to provide an extra level of depth and character to the Borderlands world that it had only flirted with before. And as someone who has never really thoroughly enjoyed the Borderlands style of humor, Tales from the Borderlands got constant laughs out of me from beginning to end. As dreary, gory, bleak, and Looney Tunes-esque the Borderlands world can sometimes be, Tales from the Borderlands is a story with a lot of genuine heart. Moments of endearing character peek their heads out among the sea of gouging knives and thieving bandits. Today, I'll be examining Tales from the Borderlands in depth, talking about story, mechanics, gameplay, and every loader bot in between. If you haven't seen my previous videos on the Borderlands series, I would highly recommend checking those out. It makes sense to at least have some narrative context before going into this game, and there will probably be spoilers for the previous games. If you enjoyed the video and want to support the channel, leave a like and a comment below. Tell me what you thought about Tales from the Borderlands. Does it hold up after all these years? You can also support me over on Patreon, where I offer monthly media reports and semi-frequent video game movie adaptation reviews. Spoiler alert for Tales from the Borderlands. Hey Dad, it's me, your favorite son, and today I'd like to talk about Tales from the Borderlands. Like I said before, the idea for a narrative-focused Borderlands game isn't one that comes naturally. The series has always leaned on its gameplay, even being known for having story that took a back seat, at least in the first entry. So making the shift to a side project that dives deep into the world and characters doesn't feel like a step that everyone would make. The game itself was actually conceived backstage at the 2012 Spike Video Game Awards. Both representatives from Telltale and Gearbox were there. As the night progressed, and with a few drinks in hand, the team came up with the idea of a classic narrative Telltale game in the Borderlands universe. Telltale were serious though, and followed up on this idea after the show. They eventually pitched the game to Gearbox, who were excited at the prospect and decided to move forward. From 2012 to 2014, Telltale were starting to just heat up in terms of popularity. Their game, The Walking Dead, based on the television show of the same name, released in 2012 to critical success and a lot of sales. The Wolf Among Us achieved much of the same in 2013, and as 2014 rolled around, Borderlands would be their next venture into this narrative direction. Tales from the Borderlands was released episodically, with each installment releasing months apart, but the first episode was released on November 25th, 2014, worldwide for Microsoft Windows. It would later come to PlayStation systems, Xbox systems, Switch, iOS, and Android. At the time of Tales from the Borderlands, Telltale was still in the early days of refining their narrative gameplay system. Because of that, some of these systems can be a little outdated and clunky. Rarely do they ever cease to function or come between the player and the narrative, though. They just cause a bit more friction than wanted from time to time. Most of the game's narrative is told through cutscenes, extended cutscenes that lay out action sequences, conversations between characters, adventure, etc. In between those cutscenes, we get exploration segments. These are the few portions of the game where we get to actually control the characters in the story. We find some optional information and make some choices. These sections are often pretty short, but they do afford us some player agency and the ability to find bits of lore that stays behind the scenes unless it's been sought out. These could be tidbits about specific characters, they could be pieces of history from Pandora itself, or more insight into the forces at play. Most of this doesn't have a larger effect on the outcome of the game, though. That mostly comes from decisions that are made within the story. These generally happen on a small timer, meaning that we don't have long to think of what we want to say before the game just chooses silence as the default option. This does two things. Not only does it force the player to choose, enabling a sense of anxiety and rushed decision making to drain any sort of critical thought that takes longer than 6 seconds, it also keeps the pace of the cutscenes moving. Because there isn't any downtime, there aren't awkward pauses where you, the player, are thinking of what option to choose, but the character in the world is standing silent in front of a person expecting some sort of audible response. While these choices don't have a massive and instant effect on the story of the game, they will have consequences in the long run. These mostly don't rear their head until the end of the game, but they are still there. This is nothing new for Telltale Games, projects that mostly run off the fumes of illusion of impactful choice rather than choices themselves. But Tales from the Borderlands is particularly lacking in this regard, because even the illusion seems to be lacking in this entry. This is a drawback that we'll talk more about as we get deeper into the story, so we should probably start there. Tales from the Borderlands begins, as it usually does, with Marcus Kincaid telling us a story. He recaps some of the events of the previous games as we close in on an abandoned location named Prosperity Junction. A man in black clothes walks up to this desolate town with a tracker in hand. This man is Reese, one of our two main characters that we control in this game. He seems to be looking for someone named Fiona, but is promptly taken captive by a mysterious masked man. He asked about something called the Gordis Project, so Reese begins to tell the story all the way from the beginning. Tales from the Borderlands actually takes place directly after Borderlands 2, but sometime before and after the framing introduction stories that took place in the pre-sequel. At the start of the tale, Reese is on Helios working for the Hyperion Corporation with his best friend Vaughn. At this point in time, Reese models himself a prodigy of the now deceased Handsome Jack. The former CEO has become something of a deity to the Hyperion executives and workers.
And Handsome Jack, he was the baddest guy of them all.
It must feel good
I
to
wanted
finally
to be
grab it,
just
you know?
like him.
Reese is about to get a promotion that Vaughn has helped him get, without a lack of serious moral complications on the way. When Reese heads in to speak with Mr. Henderson, he finds his boss replaced with his corporate rival, Hugo Vasquez. Vasquez is currently ordering himself a new car, specifically a car in black. Vasquez is, of course, rubbing in his promotion and lectures Reese on why he lost. A floating body out in space punctuates his statements, a man he recently killed. Vasquez then gets a call from someone named August about a vault key that the Hyperion executive is supposed to purchase. We can investigate some of the things around Vasquez's office, and we get an opportunity to try out Reese's Q lens. This is a technological enhancement that Reese has implanted in his eye. With this, we can scan various objects around the world and get extra information. It also helps him from time to time in hacking into computers. He uses this now to download and decrypt the vault key information from Hugo's machine. Vasquez then reveals Reese's real promotion, Assistant Vice Janitor.
But you, I respect you, Reese. That's why I'm gonna make you Assistant Vice Janitor.
What?
Reese reunites with Vaughn and gives him the bad news. We also meet Yvette, Reese and Vaughn's other good friend on Helios. She's incredibly focused on whether she'll have to pay for lunch or not, but Reese comes up with a plan. He wants to mess up the deal that Vasquez has made for the vault key as a way to get back at him. Vaughn, who works in accounting, secures them $10 million to take to the deal, and Yvette decides to help them out if they get into trouble on the surface of Pandora. As Reese and Vaughn blast their way down to the planet, we're treated to a classic Borderlands introduction. All of the games have had a sort of mini music video title sequence, starting all the way back with the first game. Tales continues this trend, but instead of just including one title sequence, it has a different one for each episode of the game. Each title sequence properly fits the mood and atmosphere of that specific episode. The music choices are fantastic and accurately score the current events. They're just great all around, and I can't say enough good about them to justify how great they really are. Reese and Vaughn make their way to Prosperity Junction and prepare their story for the vault key sellers. They stop in town to look for directions to their destination, but get involved quickly with a man named Greaseface that sells skag skewers in town.
Repeat what you said, just so there's no misunderstanding.
What? You got a greasy face.
After offending him, the bandits in the area swarm on the two Hyperion marks, and Reese is forced to call in a loader bot from Yvette to defend them. The way this scene plays out is just a bit based on which weapons you choose, but it's mostly cutscene flavor as opposed to lasting consequences. As the battle ensues, Greaseface takes the case full of money with Vaughn attached and drives off. Loaderbot rushes after it, and Reese uses a stun baton to take out the man with a greasy face. In the process of escaping the remaining bandits, Loaderbot is injured by the opposing forces, and we can either order it to self-destruct or escape. Vaughn and Reese end up in some sort of strange museum full of various dead and stuffed wildlife from around Pandora. As they advance deeper into the museum, they find dead and stuffed residents of Pandora as well. This includes one of the Booms from the second game, Professor Nakayama from the Hammerlock DLC in Borderlands 2, Commandant Steele from the first game, and of course, Shade, the psychopathic madman that stuffed and mounted the residents of Oasis in the Pirate DLC. I wonder who's behind all of this. It's Shade, as he reveals he wasn't actually dead but posing as a mannequin. In the process, we can grab Nakayama's ID chip from his body and make our way through the Emporium to the meeting place the deal is supposed to go down at. Getting there, the deal immediately starts to go wrong as August's partner, Sasha, gets spooked. She has a bad feeling and doesn't want to sell to them. Even if we manage to convince her that we're just trying to get back at Hyperion, August then gets scared and decides to call the deal off. There's then a moment where we see Reese telling the story to his captor, and he makes a decision, either break his heart or blow his mind. Both options result in a fantastical outcome that are very different from reality.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Looks like he had a change of heart.
In the present, Fiona, the girl that Reese was looking for, points out this inconsistency. She's been captured by the masked man as well, and we learn that Reese and Fiona, at least in this point in time, clearly hate each other. The masked man realizes that Fiona was there and asks for her side of the story, so we jump back once again. Fiona is the second main character that will play in Tales, jumping back and forth between the two and interweaving a narrative out of their adventures. We jump back before the meeting. Fiona and her sister Sasha were alone until, as kids, they stole from a con man named Felix. He took them under his wing and taught them how to be proper thieves. Felix is currently creating a fake vault key, one for the deal that Reese is about to get himself involved in. Before Fiona leaves, Felix equips her with a one-shot pistol, just in case she gets into any danger. Fiona then heads down the road towards the Purple Skag, a local bar that she's supposed to meet Sasha and August at. On the way, we're introduced to Fiona's special mechanic. Instead of having a Q lens that can scan objects for more information, Fiona can steal cash from people. She can pick it up on the ground, lift it from pockets, or open chests with money inside. This money can then give us different options throughout the story, once again not completely altering the outcome of the game, but slightly adjusting it. Once she gets inside, Sasha gives her a very quick rundown on her backstory, that Fiona was an archaeologist that stole the vault key from a dig site. August promptly kills a guy that owes him some money and seems very skittish about meeting Fiona. We have to convince him that everything is on the up and up, but he makes a call during the meeting to his original contact, Hugo Vasquez. It's really interesting because we heard the other half of this call during Reese's introduction section, and now we're seeing August's side. It's clear that August is smarter than he lets on, too. He lets Hugo think he's stupid so that he can believe he has some power. In reality, August is also being conned by Fiona and Sasha. We then see the start of the deal from Fiona's perspective as she sneaks inside of a ventilation shaft to try and disable Reese's Q lens so that he can't scan the vault key. This is what Sasha's bad feeling that she had from before was about. She was really just trying to get closer to the fan so Fiona could use her EMP on the box. When the EMP is used, it causes Reese's cybernetic arm to short out and he drops the key. This reveals it to be a fake, which August is just as surprised about. At the same time, a bandit named Bossa Nova decides to break up their meeting, and our heroes are forced to escape multiple assailants. Zero, one of the Vault Hunters from Borderlands 2, is chasing the bandit down and seems to have some sort of vendetta against him. Fiona, Sasha, Felix, Reese, and Vaughn all escape aboard their vehicle, but the women immediately mistrust Reese. They try to push him out of the car, but Reese promises that he'll be able to get the $10 million back that the bandits stole, and they'll be in the clear. Yvette won't help him track the money because she's already under suspicion, and Reese decides to insert Nakayama's ID chip into his head to hopefully give him a higher clearance to track the briefcase. When he wakes up, everyone is gone. The 4 remaining members of the group are overlooking an abandoned Atlas facility that the bandits have taken over. Apparently, Vaughn managed to track the case just fine. We've got to figure out a way inside, which leads to the group finding a nearby hatch and getting immediately separated. Reese and Sasha head through the tunnels, with Sasha holding a gun to Reese's back because she doesn't trust a Hyperion man. They pretty quickly find the case with some bandits, but there's too many for them to grab it. After a terrible attempt to attack the guard, the two have to hack the elevator to get upstairs. Sasha is naturally untrusting of Reese, not only because of the circumstances of their meeting, but also because he's a part of Hyperion. The people of Pandora have great reason to hate the mega corporation. At the hands of Handsome Jack, Hyperion was responsible for completely changing the look, wildlife, and trajectory of Pandora as a whole. This isn't to say that without Handsome Jack, the company has done a complete 180. Far from it, actually. They're working in his shadow, attempting to do what he did, but better. Sasha has every reason to not trust Reese, but Reese is also questioning his corporate allegiance as well. During this scene, we also learn of Sasha's great love and affinity for weapons. The two make it onto the elevator only after being helped out by Zero, who requests that they let him know if they find a Gortys prototype anywhere nearby.
No, if you see a Gortys core, I really need it.
Sure. We'll let you know.
Once they arrive at their destination, we jump back to Fiona and Vaughn, who are currently being caught by a bandit. They convince him that they're there for the races and enter the competition. Vaughn confides in Fiona before the race that he's quite terrified.
This is bad. This is bad.
What have we gotten ourselves into here? Psychos, motor chariot thingies, sponsors?
The final section of this episode plays out jumping back and forth between the two characters as they deal with separate parts of this stadium event. Reese, Sasha, and Zero are all taking on the melee in the center of the arena, while Fiona and Vaughn are racing around the track for their lives. If they manage to win the race, they can get the $10 million as a reward. Zero is only here to take out Bossa Nova, though. During the fight, Reese is contacted by Vasquez and given an offer. He wants to make a deal with Reese. As long as he brings back the money, he can get his real job back, but he has to sell Vaughn down the river. The two are then forced to contend with a large skag, and the briefcase ends up tossed onto the racetrack. Out here, Vaughn and Fiona fight off bandits trying to attack them in an intense action sequence. Fiona barely manages to escape their crashing vehicle as the case flies into Felix's arms through the front window of their caravan. But when she enters inside, she makes a deadly revelation. Felix has turned on them and plans to take the money for himself. During the course of the race, Vaughn told Fiona that there was a bomb on the briefcase, which we can warn Felix about or let him die in the blast. After this, Zero manages to kill Bossa Nova and tells Moxie that he couldn't find the Gortys prototype before leaving. The group's monetary pursuits are currently falling around the arena, burned and charred. And Sasha is incredibly upset at the betrayal of Felix. It's at this point that Bloaterbot arrives, recognizing Reese as his new master for some reason. His arrival causes Reese to fall into a hole in the ground. It turns out to be an Atlas facility with a prototype SMG for Sasha, a retro watch for Vaughn, and a strange device that emits a map layout to a vault for Reese and Fiona. Just then, Reese begins to hear voices in his head, seemingly from the ID chip that he used earlier that day. This voice is quickly revealed to be Handsome Jack himself. This is where episode 1 concludes, on this massive cliffhanger, but don't worry because things have just started to heat up. Episode 1 just does a great job at not only introducing us to the characters, but also the world of Borderlands. And to be clear, we have already seen the world of Borderlands before this, that's true, but this is clearly a new perspective of that world. Every time we've seen Pandora or even Elpis, it's been through the eyes of what are essentially super soldiers. Trained killers that move through environments with ease, that kill without thought, that decimate massive beasts in their way. Now, one of our characters has one bullet, the other one can't stop himself from getting pushed out of a moving caravan or getting his car stolen. These are normal people, not soldiers. We're seeing the world through their eyes for the first time. We get to see the way that Hyperion works as a company, not for the CEO, but for the people working in the ranks. We get to see how people manage to survive on Pandora outside of the psychos and madmen. And the characters themselves are nothing to shrug at. The cast does a lot of heavy lifting in Tales. Rhys starts out as sort of a jackass, someone that needs to be redeemed, because the first thing we see from him is that he idolizes the villain from Borderlands 2. He's chasing this corporate lifestyle, but we can see that he ultimately wants something more. Vaughn is his lovable sidekick, sort of annoying but also endearing. He's willing to help out a friend, though he too has found himself caught up in the hustle and bustle of chasing dollar signs. Fiona is someone that's just trying to get by, someone who sought family and found it, but that's been quickly ripped away from her through betrayal. At least she still has a close bond with her sister, but the two can't be entirely the same without Felix. Sasha herself is lovable and energetic, though that doesn't stop her from being firm or standing her ground. She loves weapons, and having a distinct interest is most likely a product of her environment, but also a defining trait. These four characters don't necessarily love each other. Rhys and Fiona already quarrel. Sasha and Rhys are trying to get to know each other, as are Fiona and Vaughn, but they're a party of circumstance, not here because they decided they wanted to be or they thought it was best, but because they have to be. As episode 2 begins, the group is worried about Rhys, seeing as he's talking to someone that isn't there, at least to them. Rhys is the only one that can see Jack at this point. The rest of the group focus on the map that they just found. They quickly find out that Rhys and Fiona are the only two that can touch the prototype device without getting shocked. They investigate a nearby computer that can only be accessed through a retinal scanner. We have to dig out the eye of a nearby dead general to get into it in a pretty gruesome scene. Then, one of the funniest reveals in the game comes when a video log on the computer from the general warns against killing him because he's actually just in a sort of cryo sleep.
If you're watching this, then I'm already in suspended animation. You must understand, Adina was trying to kill me, and what I possess is far too powerful to end up in the arsenal of a ruthless mercenary. If Adina is no longer a threat, please activate the revive old protocol in my stasis dock. My life, and quite possibly the fate of the universe, is in your hands.
Another message shows Athena, the character from the first game and the pre-sequel, invading the base. The group also learns that the Gortys Project is being held in Oldhaven. We then see Rhys trying to come to grips with what he's seeing. What is essentially his idol is standing in front of him. Jack doesn't even realize that he's dead. He seems to be some sort of representation of Jack's consciousness, but we aren't sure yet. Rhys bumps his head from a fall, and handsome Jack disappears for now. Loaderbot manages to save the group from the facility as Hyperion starts launching moonshot blasts at Pandora. The group tries to dodge the moonshots as the caravan is ripped apart, and the four are split up into their original teams of 2. Rhys and Vaughn, now stranded in the desert, are realizing how much they actually enjoy being away from Hyperion, and Vaughn specifically loves the free life on Pandora. Yvette has stopped the attacks for now, but she knows that Vasquez is coming after them. In the desert, Jack also learns that Rhys is obsessed with him, humiliating our main character a bit. Vasquez then lands on Pandora in his new car to try and take out the duo. During this confrontation, it's revealed that Vaughn was offered the same deal as Rhys, to turn on him in exchange for his job back. Vaughn claims it was a lie to get Vasquez off their backs, but we can't be sure just yet. We have a couple ways to deal with Vasquez, but he does eventually get away. In the process, Jack manages to take control of Reese's robot arm, showing that he isn't just a subconscious presence, but one that can at least slightly influence Reese's movements. Reese and Vaughn get saved by Loaderbot and either head to rescue Fiona and Sasha or head straight to Old Haven to meet up with them. We then see Fiona and Sasha's side of the story as they make their way to a small outpost to try and repair the caravan. They come across Scooter's shop out here and get to meet the man himself. He's already aware of the group after hearing about their race and wants to sponsor them. Luckily, this gives us the ability to get free repairs from him. Some bounty hunters come by looking for Fiona and Sasha, but Scooter thankfully covers for the women. While the car is being worked on, they can head over to Felix's stash house to try and find some remnants of what he left behind. They manage to find a couple grenades and a stash with an echo communicator. This has a message from Felix warning them that August was connected to someone incredibly dangerous named Valerie. He realized this and didn't want Fiona and Sasha to be compromised. He warns them to run away. He left 2 gifts for them in the stash. Fiona's alters her one-shot pistol, adding an elemental effect. Sasha doesn't want her gift and decides to not even look at it. It's at this point that Kroger and Finch show up to try and capture Fiona and Sasha. We manage to get out of their clutches by using the elemental bullet on Finch's face. At the same time, Athena arrives and starts chasing the women as well. They barely manage to escape after getting saved by Loaderbot, who reunites them with the group. The 4 bid a farewell to Scooter and head to Old Haven. Here, they find a hidden underground Atlas building that's already been invaded. Hugo and August are already here. They manage to take control of Loaderbot, so the group is captured for now. They need Fiona and Reese to activate the Gortys project. Through a conversation with Hugo, it's revealed that Handsome Jack used to bully him all the time, but Hugo always thought they were friends. This feeling wasn't reciprocated.
I used to be in the mailroom.
Whoa, wait a minute. Wallet head!
That's where Jack found me.
He used to be bald and he was going through these hair implants and I would stick money to his head. It was it was hilarious.
And August really thought that Sasha was in love with him, not understanding still that he got conned. The two are then brought to a large machine in the center and insert the map that they got in the last episode. This releases Gortys, a small metal ball. When Reese drops it, Atlas bots show up to attack him and Fiona. At this point, we have one choice: to trust Fiona and let her use the grenade she got from Felix, or to let Jack take over Reese's subsystem and take out the bots himself. Either way, we see a short scene of a woman finding the picture of Felix, Fiona, and Sasha as kids, and she rips Felix out of it before the episode ends. Episode 2 has a bit more action and a bit more consequences for the group, but includes still a lot of setup for the story. We see the introduction of some new characters. Scooter, first of all, will be incredibly consequential in the story to come. He presents himself as a dumb but lovable mechanic that's not only willing to help the group, but also to put himself on the line for them, which is rare in Pandora. And then we have the mysterious Athena. We aren't sure of her goals yet or her plans, but she seems particularly bloodthirsty. We're also reintroduced to Handsome Jack, or at least some part of his consciousness. I don't entirely love his inclusion in the first few episodes. I think later in the game, especially towards the end, he manages to make a really big impact, and his character is used well, but at the beginning there isn't much to say about him. Until he is used well, it almost feels like he's brought back specifically because he's such a popular character. But he does do something important, something that his character will effectively double down on later. He serves as a literal devil on Reese's shoulder, acting as his crossroads. Does Reese want to redeem himself, or does he want to ascend and become the handsome Reese that he always wanted to be? One of my favorite developments in this episode is the repurposing of Old Haven. Now, when we replay Borderlands 1 or 2 and enter this location, it's viewed through a new lens. We now understand that there's something more powerful lurking underneath here, waiting for these events to happen. But Tales just keeps doing a really good job of upping the stakes and the mystery of its narrative. What is the Gortys Project? Hell, Hyperion doesn't even know at this point. They're only forcing Reese and Fiona to give them access because Hugo thinks he might be able to recoup on his costs after losing the $10 million in the vault key. How is Athena involved in this? Who the hell is Valerie? Etc. All these questions will be answered in time, but it's the effective use of narrative hooks and cliffhangers that keep you wanting to play the next episode, and if you were playing on release, keep you waiting for the next episode. At the beginning of episode 3, in the present day, the masked man is very clearly interested in the pair's story and has even let them be untied at this point. The group pops a tire and continues to walk while the story follows. Fiona and Reese make their escape no matter what option was chosen previously. They make their way through the Atlas facility, attempting to save their friends and escape. Fiona manages to free Loaderbot from his Hyperion control, and Vaughn is unfortunately paralyzed by a dart on the way out. Loaderbot gets them all outside, but the group is stopped by Valerie. Finch is pretty upset about his burned or electrocuted face, and Valerie is pretty pissed about the deal falling through. We can either blame Vasquez, August, or Felix for the deal that did fall through. Vasquez dies, though, and Fiona gets her own fantasy retelling of the story.
Heads up.
I thought it was a flashbang grenade.
It is.
In reality, Athena managed to show up and save the crew. She reveals she hasn't been chasing the group to kill them, but to help them. Felix sent her to find Fiona after his death to try and train her to become a Vault Hunter. Fiona and Reese activate the Gortys robot to reveal a small circular android that blissfully runs around, seemingly just born and unaware of the basic foundational knowledge of life. Gortys isn't quite sure what it's supposed to do, it just knows that upgrades are nearby, and Gortys can guide the crew to them. There's an incredibly hilarious scene where Gortys tries to drag Vasquez's lifeless body away because it doesn't realize that he's dead, or apparently what death even is.
Come on, Slowpoke! Time's all wasted!
Gortys? He is,
Oh, he's got, some stomach issues.
Oh, I can see that!
We then get another introduction sequence, probably my favorite of the 5 episodes, as the crew is seen traveling across Pandora, heading for the upgrade. It's great, it's a bit uplifting, it's funny in some places, and properly showcases how much the crew has expanded. Reese, Vaughn, Fiona, Sasha, Athena, Loaderbot, Gortys, and even Handsome Jack all have their own distinct places here, and their own personalities are present enough to stand out. During their travels, Handsome Jack is once again harassing Reese. He warns him to not tell Athena that he's in his head because she might just fly off the handle and kill Reese. Jack is also trying to butter him up. He wants to work with him and frankly needs to because Jack is dead without Reese. But Reese has some mixed feelings on this. So why would Reese change up from the beginning of the game? When we first saw him, he idolized Handsome Jack. Well, there's a lot of reasons. First of all, being passed up and pushed down by Vasquez made him realize that the company itself wasn't all it was cracked up to be. It wasn't a place where you just worked hard and got what you wanted. You had to be more cutthroat than Reese was willing to. And getting pushed out made Reese realize that this is probably what Jack did to many people along the way. So is he the people that Jack killed and pushed aside? Or is he Jack himself? This is a thought that Reese and the player have to reckon with as we progress through the story. On top of that, living a new life on Pandora, meeting people outside of Hyperion, and being exposed to the people that corporation has affected has seemingly changed his heart a little bit. He's realized that there's more to life than just high rises and nice cars. Back in the present day, Reese, Fiona, and their masked man decide to make camp. Fiona is frustrated with storytelling and decides to make Reese tell the next part. The group approaches a large dome filled with strange plants that supposedly also houses the Gortys upgrade the robot has led them to. When looking for an entrance to the larger facility, we can see that Gortys and Loaderbot have been getting along extremely well. It's also worth noting at this point that Vaughn is being carried on Loaderbot's back, still stuck in his paralyzed state. Once we get into the facility, we find some strange maps, and pretty soon it's revealed that a scientist named Cassius has been living here. He seems to be hiding some things, but offers to help fix Vaughn, and he is immediately cured of his paralysis. The man then claims that he has been mapping the facilities, but hasn't been brave enough or strong enough to venture further inside the dome to retrieve what's inside. The group will have to carve out their own path and dodge these security systems along the way. Vaughn stays back while Reese and Sasha get a lot closer along their journey. It becomes clear very quickly that Reese is developing feelings for the woman. On the other side of things, Athena begins training Fiona in the ways of being a vault hunter, forcing her to take out a killer plant by herself. Reese and Fiona get attacked by some flying spores, and Fiona and Athena get held off by defensive turrets. It's at this point Fiona also realizes that Athena is dating Springs from the pre-sequel. She's also lying to her girlfriend about her Vault Hunter activities, having told her that she quit the profession a long time ago. Fiona and Athena eventually nab the Gortys upgrade while Reese and Sasha turn off the turrets. At the same time, in the present, the Masked Man forces the two to dig up the same Gortys upgrade. Once the group all gets back to the main facility, Reese and Sasha reveal that Cassius is actually an Atlas scientist. Athena has been on a warpath, killing every single Atlas member that she could find. Cassius is seemingly the final one, and she tries to do the same. During this confrontation, the group is captured by Valerie. Fiona and Sasha face off against Valerie's bounty hunters once again, and Sasha eventually helps Reese, who is chasing down August, who is also chasing down Gortys. At the same time, Sasha and Athena are being attacked by Brick and Mordecai, who have shown up as contracted hunters for hire. Lilith also happens to want to bring Athena in for questioning, so it works both ways. Gortys is eventually given her upgrade, and Fiona is cornered by Valerie. Athena saves her by throwing her the shield, but this is a sacrifice, allowing Athena to get captured by the Vault Hunters and to be taken back to Sanctuary, where we see the framing story for Borderlands the pre-sequel take place. Valerie then threatens Gortys with torture until she tells them where the final upgrade piece is. She finally relents, telling them the last piece is on Helios. This cliffhanger then ends episode 3. Out of all the episodes, 3 is probably my least favorite. While it is good and it does have a decent amount of action, it just doesn't feel like there's enough real development that makes it interesting. It does move things forward in terms of character, though. Reese and Sasha get to know each other quite a bit better, and it's clear these two are developing a sort of bond. We also learn a lot more about Athena and how she's living this sort of double life. Athena is then sort of given a chance at redemption and chooses to save Fiona. It's decent enough to move the plot along, but just doesn't feel as packed with reveals or setups as the previous or later episodes. Episode 4 begins in the present day once again, as Reese and Fiona finally decide to escape their captor, but are quickly caught again after outrunning a meteor shower. Once they're tied up, they start back at the dome. At this point, Vaughn is missing, and Valerie gets Gortys' true purpose from her. Apparently, the robot can be used to summon a special vault and keep it here once it's upgraded. This will allow anyone to step inside and grab the treasure. Valerie then tortures Sasha to get the group's cooperation in going to Helios and getting the final upgrade piece. Reese learns from Handsome Jack that the Gortys piece is in his office, so they need a plan to get to Helios and to infiltrate Jack's old office. In the group's fantasy plan, they get Scooter to help them build a ship, they fly to Helios, they get Yvette to help them get inside, hack the system, and have Fiona and Sasha, posing as tour guides, get into Jack's office. Of course, there's a lot of complications that we need to deal with first. Number 1 is that Reese can't be seen as himself, so he decides to put on a disguise to make himself look like Vasquez. To do this, he'll have to retrieve his body from Old Haven and use it on a new U station to get his likeness. Fiona and Sasha first head to Scooter's with August in tow because he doesn't trust them. Scooter wants to help, but honestly he doesn't know much about rocket ships. He refers us to Springs, Athena's girlfriend, who isn't too happy right now because of the whole Athena lying to her thing. She agrees to help after we talk to her though. Finch and Kroger then take Reese to Old Haven where he has to find Hugo's body. Once he gets there though, he finds Hugo's face has been ripped off by nearby psychos to turn it into a skin pizza. He gets the face and makes a run for it. Back at Scooters, the women change into some costumes befitting tour guides, and Reese transforms into Hugo with the voice to match. In the intro for this episode, the group takes the ship and flies off to Helios. Pretty quickly, the ship begins to have issues, and Scooter decides the only way to fix it without it exploding is to eject the engines. He guides Fiona through one side as she takes care of it, but as she heads to the other side to help her friend, we realize that Scooter is trapped on the engine. Scooter calmly explains to Fiona what has to happen. She has to eject the engine and send him off to a death in space. Scooter wouldn't even blink at having to sacrifice himself to save these other people that have been so great to him already. So this is exactly what he does. Scooter dies in a fiery explosion in space. Afterwards, we're left with a small beacon that Scooter wanted to put out into space to advertise his business. If we still use this beacon, then it becomes a memorial. The group arrives at Helios with Reese as Hugo taking the charge. He has a cooler with Hugo's body inside, a body they've constructed to look like Reese. It's very confusing, but it makes sense if you think about it. He is immediately confronted by soldiers who are suspicious of his arrival. Yvette then arrives with a big reveal. She tells Hugo, thinking it's actually him, about the deal that they made. Yvette actually took a deal offered by Hugo to sell out Reese and Vaughn. Reese wasn't supposed to die, though. They were supposed to bring him back alive because he had something valuable in his head that Hyperion wanted to examine. Fiona and Sasha then hatch a scheme in the cafeteria to steal tour guide badges. Fiona is then allowed to start the tour through Jack's office, where she has to deal with a group of handsome Jack Padawans that worship him like Jordan Belfort or Tyler Durden. One of them is vaporized when trying to enter Jack's office, and she's locked out. Reese has to help with his hacking skills, but he's interrupted by Yvette. Reese then gets some information from Jack that there's another secret entrance into his office, a trapdoor that he used as a kill chute. Fiona gets herself arrested so that they can get access to the entrance, and on the way, Reese has probably one of the funniest scenes in the entire game. Throughout the course of Tales, there's been this recurring joke that the people on Hyperion shoot finger guns at each other all the time. A bunch of people that have a grudge against Vasquez in accounting decide to unleash a hellish war of finger guns on him, and he has to defend himself. It's just great because it calls back to previous references in the game, but it also firmly establishes the Hyperion crew as far as they possibly could be from the actual action on Pandora, or any of these planets for that matter. Reese comes to rescue Fiona and ditches his disguise. She holds the lever to stop the death machines while Reese makes his way up to Jack's office. Inside, we can investigate a few things of note, like the golden hand on Jack's desk that was supposed to be for an immortality suit, and a certificate proving that the holder is the functioning CEO of the essentially defunct Atlas Corporation. We finally get a hold of the Gortys upgrade, though, and Jack makes his final offer to Reese to rule at his side, becoming the new Hyperion CEO and letting Jack work with him. At the same time, Yvette arrives in the tunnels after capturing Sasha. Regardless of Reese's choice, Jack takes control of his body once again, ending episode 4. Episode 4 definitely ratchets up the tensions and consequences for the story. First of all, Scooter's death is probably one of the biggest things to happen in the game. It gives Tales the stakes that other games in the series didn't really seem to have, and Scooter's death wasn't just a throwaway event. It wasn't just a character dying just to die. It happened because he had to help the mission continue. His death then informs his character further, leading to the touching tribute that we get in the final Borderlands 2 DLC. We also get the reveal of Yvette's betrayal, further proof that Hyperion isn't a hospitable place for Reese and probably never was. We get some funny moments. We get the reveal of Handsome Jack's betrayal, which isn't really much of a reveal, but more of a foregone conclusion, and set up a massive cliffhanger on the finale. Something I also haven't talked much about throughout this video is the present day framing story that the game is telling. The masked man capturing Reese and Fiona, this generates so much tension and mystery. When Fiona and Reese first meet, they aren't the best of friends, but they slowly learn to work together over the course of the game. But the game starts off in the present with them hating each other. So we are essentially building up to this big reveal. How do these two reach this point in time where they can't get along? What monumental event happens to create such a rift between them? On top of that, the ongoing mystery of who the masked man is and why he wants them in the first place is always present in the back of our minds. This will all obviously be addressed in the finale, but it's one of 100 different hooks that the story uses to keep you invested. Episode 5 begins as Fiona and Sasha manage to shake Yvette. Handsome Jack then begins his plan to take control of Reese's body and put his own inside of the immortal robot suit hidden under his desk. Reese, of course, breaks out and manages to escape, but Handsome Jack is now inside of Helios. Reese heads into the core and decides to shut it down to stop Handsome Jack. Sasha and Fiona attempt to escape on the ship, but Kroger and Finch get there first with Gordis and Sasha in tow. Loaderbot gets Fiona to a shuttle and stays on the ship so that he can save Reese. He then sends Reese off in another shuttle, sacrificing himself so that his friends can live as Helios falls towards the surface of Pandora. Reese escapes from his pod in the wreckage of Helios and finds Jack's flickering consciousness on board. Jack still has a small bit of control over Reese's arm and tries to use that to kill him. This forces Reese to take final measures, ripping off his bionic arm and pulling his Q-lens implant through his eye. This gets rid of Jack but causes Reese to pass out in the wreckage. Fiona has landed on Pandora only to find the planet coated in a haze with a massive battle going on between two giants. Gordis got the final upgrade and summoned the vault, but along with it, its massive guardian. Valerie is trying to destroy it, and Fiona stops her, only to realize that Gordis wants to be destroyed. If the robot is destroyed, then the vault and its guardian will disappear, saving their friends. Back in the present, Fiona and Reese catch the masked man up. Fiona and Sasha got patched up, and Reese found the Atlas Corporation certificate in the wreckage, deciding to become the CEO of the failed company and build it from the ground up. The reason that Fiona and Reese are upset at each other is because Reese saw the ship flying away on Helios and thought the group had abandoned him. And Fiona is mad because Reese lied to them and wasn't honest about Jack being inside his head. The masked man has business to take care of, though, because the deal has just arrived. He's trading his two prisoners for a bandit leader. Finch arrives, ready to take Fiona and Reese into his deadly custody as revenge for his friend Kroger that was killed. The situation quickly changes, though, as Finch is taken out, and the bandit leader reveals himself to be none other than Vaughn, who has become the head of the Children of Helios, a group of Hyperion crew who were left after the destruction of the station and needed a place to go. On the way, they learn that the children have begun to worship Reese in place of Handsome Jack. This clearly shows that they have not moved on from their deification, but just shifted it to another person. Back in the station's remains, the masked man reveals who he really is, Loaderbot. After Loaderbot saw the destruction of Gordis, he thought that his friends turned on each other. He saw another bot being slaughtered by them and decided he needed to find out the truth. He went back to the Helios wreckage and constructed a body out of the immortality suit that Jack had in his office. He then sought out Reese and Fiona to get to the truth, which is why he's been so interested in their story. He now has the remaining pieces of Gordis and wants to bring her back so that they can defeat the Vault Guardian and have their friend again. Now, as much as I've said that Tales doesn't have much consequence for your choices, this is one place where your choices do actually have an effect, because we need to pick our team for this final assault. A few of the choices that we've made throughout the game will come into play here and determine which team members we can and can't choose. For example, because I told Athena to tell the truth and told Springs that Athena loved her, they were both available for the mission. Felix was not, because I didn't warn him about the exploding case and he was kind of dead. August was available because I didn't blame him for the deal with the vault key. Zero wasn't available because I never called myself a vault hunter. Cassius was available because I stopped Athena from killing him. And the vault hunters weren't available because I didn't have enough money to hire them. Who you choose to bring in your party won't necessarily affect the ending of the game. Picking the wrong people isn't going to make you lose the battle or anything. It's just going to affect how that battle plays out. It's kind of a neat feature, but definitely not one that necessitates repeat playthroughs or anything. I mean, you'd be essentially playing a 10-hour game again just to see a couple new scenes in the final episode. There's a big montage scene where the crew gets ready and some dynamic introductions. Sasha is brought back and reintroduced to Reese, who is elated to see her. The plan for the battle is to bring back Gortys and to send Sasha and Fiona inside of the Vault Guardian so that they can disable its teleport abilities. Once this is done, Gortys will be able to hold it in place, and Vaughn's crew can hit it with the moonshot. This plan mostly goes off as expected. Reese and crew are forced to control Gortys from the inside, Megazord style, to fight off the Vault Guardian. While inside, Sasha and Fiona plant the bombs, but as they're exiting the beast, they realize the detonator is too far from the bombs to function. Sasha decides to sacrifice herself, staying behind to destroy the Guardian. It is destroyed, but Sasha is left with deadly injuries. Just before she dies, she opens the box that Felix gave her. A stopwatch engraved with the phrase, "Time heals all wounds," lies inside. This watch turns out to be some sort of device that heals her more serious wounds and brought her back from the brink. The rest of the crew swarms to pick up the dropped loot, and Fiona and Reese rush towards the vault entrance. They decide to head inside together, with Reese professing his romantic interest in Fiona's sister. Inside the vault, the two talk about their journey, they make amends, and they dream about what they'd like to do after this. They both touch the chest at the same time, but instead of opening, they are transported elsewhere, ending the game on a massive cliffhanger. There's a lot of great things that I can and will say about the narrative in Tales from the Borderlands. It's not perfect. There's pacing issues near the middle of the game. It's probably around an hour or two too long for its own good. There's some character issues, like the fact that Fiona's journey and development isn't nearly as well done as Reese's. Reese has a lot more of a focus put on him. He has this whole storyline with Handsome Jack that turns out to be the catalyst for the finale. It's also his personal redemption, his moment to stand firm and decide who he wants to be. Fiona doesn't really have that as much. She does have her relationship with Sasha. The two want to leave the planet, and a lot of their story is more inward. It's more about protecting each other and figuring out what they want to be. Fiona specifically is trying to figure out whether the life of a vault hunter is for her, because she isn't used to this either. She also has the betrayal of Felix, and reckoning with that is something complicated that she has to do with Sasha throughout the course of the game. But it really does feel like there's a much larger focus on Reese than there is on her. I would have liked to see her deal with the Felix problem a lot more. She does have an effect on the story. It's not like she isn't there. She just doesn't have as much reflection as Reese. There's also the illusion of choice that Telltale is known for, and while they are known for this, Tales from the Borderlands has a much bigger problem than most of their other games. There is basically no reason to replay this game through another time because you've basically seen all of it. It makes a lot of the choices feel unnecessary and leaves less agency on the player. All that being said, Tales from the Borderlands is the best story that the games have. It absolutely nails the humor of the world, something that even the mainline Borderlands games fail to do sometimes. It's never incredibly obnoxious, cringy, or over the top. It isn't stuffed with memes and dated references, so the game has aged pretty well, and it shows us the world of Borderlands through a different lens than we're used to seeing. Because of this, it vastly expands that world. I've never been more interested in the world of Borderlands than I have while playing this game. The new cast is one that I just love to be around. Reese and Vaughn's dynamic is great. Two friends who are trying to figure out where they fit through all this madness. Fiona and Sasha are heartwarming. Two sisters who want something better for themselves, but don't necessarily know how to get it. Gortys and Loaderbot even have this C-3PO and R2-D2 thing going on, except their lack of human understanding leads to a lot of great moments. Scooter is a gem that sacrifices himself for the mission. The bounty hunters are easily hateable. Handsome Jack is, well, Handsome Jack. The whole thing is just this fantastic journey. It feels like a genuine space opera with these people that have no business flying ships and shooting weapons. And the game doesn't feel like it tries to cash in on the Borderlands popularity at all. It genuinely feels like it loves the game. I mean, everything from references to tone to story beats are included here. The cel-shaded style is carried over from the previous games. Ammo boxes are used in critical moments in the story. We even get to see the party scrambling for loot at the end of the game. A lot of the moments in the game are pretty brutally gory, which is true to form for the series as well. It's just very clear across the board that the team wanted to make a good Borderlands game. Not to say they made a game in the Borderlands universe, but because they cared for that world. Tales from the Borderlands achieved critical success on release, most praising the narrative, characters, and humor. It was nominated for a ton of awards, both at DICE 2015 and the Game Awards in the same year. The game didn't meet sales expectations though, and a few years later, Telltale closed its studio. Many IP owners would take the publishing rights to Tales games and put them back up on digital platforms, and 2K would even go on to make their own sequel, which we'll talk about in another video. But Tales from the Borderlands' notorious cliffhanger would never be truly followed up on. Sure, some characters would return, but we never really see directly what happened after this. By the time Telltale had closed down, though, Gearbox were already working hard on the highly anticipated next entry in the series. But we'll talk about that next time. Bye, Dad. Hey Dad, thanks again for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, leave a like to help the video out in the algorithm. Also, comment below and let me know what Borderlands game you think has the best story. If you want to support the channel further, you can head over to my Patreon and join this list of amazing people here and get some exclusive content you won't anywhere else. See you next time. Bye, Dad.